In this video, I want to look at the common variables that you will be using in C#. So to store my variables, I'm going to pop them on behind a button. So I've just dragged a button there from the toolbox onto the form, and straight away I'm going to change the text on the button here over in the properties window to variables, and I'll also change the code name. So it's recommended there that the code name starts with a capital, so btn is a three-letter prefix for naming variables, btn for naming controls, btn variables, and when I double click on this button it will bring me into the event, the click event, and this is the code that will execute when I run my program and click on the button. So the most common variables, well, first of all, what is a variable? It's a storage space for a value in your program. So typically you might read in values from the user, you'd store them in a variable, you might then go off and send them off to the database. So variables are very common. So what you do for a variable, you select the data type first. So the data type, for example, int, would store a whole number. Then the name of the variable. So this is known as an identifier that you make up. So I've just called it number. You can give the variable a value on the same line as where you declare it. So it's giving me an option here of equals 0. If I want to accept the text there that it's giving me, I can hit tab there to accept it, or I can type in my own. So int number equals 12. So an int is for a whole number. So you've got your data type, just pop these together, data type followed by the variable name. Then optionally you can assign it a value, so equals value, and a semicolon at the end. So an int is for a whole number. And on from that we could have a double if you wanted to store a number with a decimal point in it. So double price equals $12.50. Other variables there would be a char for a character, say for a single letter. Again, it's giving me some suggestions here, so I'll go with that. Equals a. So when you have a character there, you must store the value in single quotes. I'm just going to go backwards here to my double. You could also have a float. So float takes up half the storage space as it would there for a double. So float maybe temp equals 32.5. Now just to show you something here. A float there. So the red underline would mean that it doesn't compile. So the compiler is not happy with this. There's something wrong. So when the compiler looks at the right hand side, it will always look at the right hand side first. Here it sees a literal and it sees a double. So a double is 64 bits and a float is 32 bits. So this double will not fit into the variable type or into the data type float. So if you want it to be a float, what you have to do is put in F, and that will tell the compiler, I want this to be a float. So for a double, the default there would be D, but you don't have to put that in, because when the compiler sees a literal with decimal place, it will see it as a double. Now let's look at other data types that we have here. A bool would store, we'll go with is winter, can only store the value true or false. So is it winter? Yes, so true there. And also we could have a string for storing text. So string name equals, and then we need double quotes here, equals Sandra. Now a string can be a capital letter or a lowercase letter, so C# allows you to have both. String just text equals hello. And they're the main data types that we'd use. So int for a whole number, double for a decimal point, char for a letter, bool for true or false, yes or no, on or off, and then a string for text. There are other data types there as well. So a byte would be for a number between the range of -128 to +127. So byte will be basically a small number. Equals pop in anything there. So if I put in 129, that's over the max range for a byte. It seems I'm just going to print that out. So you can print it into a message box. So I'll just show you that for starters. Messagebox.show. And then what I would normally put in the text there, put in small number, and I'd concatenate onto that, so it's a plus, and small num, there it is. Now I'm just going to run this program so far with what I have. I need a semicolon there at the end of the line. I hit on run there, or you can press F5 either as well to run your program. Now just give that a minute. I press the button, the code behind will execute, and I just put small num there, 129. Okay. Now, so I incorrectly said there that a byte can store from -128 to +127, but that's in Java. So in C#, a byte can store from 0 to 255. So from 0 to 255. So 255 there is the max. If I put in 256, again, there we go, it's underlined in red, so that's too large. So 255 there is the max. If you wanted to store negative and positive number there, C# has an S byte, so a signed byte, and then just give a name there. I'll call it a signed byte, not the most exotic name, but now I can put in a negative number there. So I can't have a negative in a regular byte. And give that a second there, that should come up in red underline. So that's not allowed there, or read only. Not the read only represents a 32-bit signed integer, so I can't have a negative there. Now also you will have a U int for an unsigned int. There's also a U long. There are some other ones as well there, but I'm not going into them there at the minute. Other ones there, we could have a short for, typically running out of names here, short. So that'd be from -32768 to 32767. So 32767, that would be the max value there. So traditionally, if you want a whole number, you will just use the int there instead. So these ones are kind of just extra to know. You could also have a long there, which would be twice the size of a double, so a very big number. And again, I could type in the max number, but I don't know it off by heart. But what you could use instead there is a class there along that max value. So that's code that's in the libraries that somebody else has written. A max value will give you back the maximum value there for. Now, and just to print that out there as well into a message box, messagebox.show, and that big number, so the long, not very inventive again, but I'll concatenate that on, so plus and a very big number and semicolon at the end of the line. And just to run that to make sure that's okay, so you can hit the run button or F5. Now I have one running already. Just hit the run button there at the top. So my output there from behind this button is going to appear as a small number, and there is the maximum value for a long. So in this video we looked at the most common variables. So you have an int for a whole number, a double if you want to have a decimal point, character for a single letter, a bool if you want true or false, and then a string if you want text, and they would be the most common variables.